Thank you for joining today's MD EnviroScreen webinar. This is the first of our public-facing webinars for the MD EnviroScreen Environmental Justice Screening Tool. Um, my name is Noble Smith. I'm joined by my colleagues Alex Lima and Marie Pandey, and we will give a quick overview of the screening tool and have about 5 or 10 minutes at the end for questions. This is the first in a series of webinars that we are making available for folks. And if you don't have your questions answered today, we will have many further opportunities down the road to answer your questions. Today's webinar is really supposed to be an intro to the tool to really help you on your journey with exploring your environmental justice surroundings. So before we sort of demo the tool and go into the features, I just want to give some background as to the purpose of MD EnviroScreen and the work that comes from it. So this MD EnviroScreen calculates an EJ score. It came out of House Bill 1200 and the Climate Solutions Now Act. The Climate Solutions Now Act also mandated the creation of the Climate Vulnerability Score, which is an additional layer in the screening tool. Separately, the tool also has information available on demographic information, child poverty, as well as age statistics. So what is the EJ score? The EJ score is a collection of individual environmental justice points, but they include information on your pollution burden or other sort of statistics. The EJ score does not include indicators such as race, age, or language proficiency. But that data is included in the map. You are able to access the data so users can evaluate the relationship between demographics and pollution burden. The environmental justice score, like I mentioned, is calculated by averaging indicators in these three buckets. Pollution burden exposure, environmental effects, as well as sensitive population. The EJ score, as I said earlier, is an overall evaluation of an area's environmental and environmental justice indicators. As we get deeper into what these buckets actually include as data sets, you'll see that pollution burden exposure includes your indicators such as PM 2.5, ozone, proximity to hazardous waste landfills, and your traffic proximity, while your environmental effects will have other sort of proximity indicators such as Superfund sites, your proximity to CAFOs or power plants, and then sensitive populations are categories that include demographic information such as rates of low birth weight, asthma discharges from hospitals, low income status, or lack of broadband. Now I'll send it over to Alex.
Thank you, Noble. Hello, everybody. Alex Lima. This is what the landing page looks like when you get to MD EnviroScreen. You will be greeted with a dialog box that you can make go away by clicking X or hitting OK. There is vital information in that dialog box, so strongly suggest that you read it. We're going to start on the MD EnviroScreen landing page from left and then go right. You will see on the top left there's a plus and a minus sign. That allows you to zoom into the map, zoom into a particular area, and zoom out. Now, you can also do this by utilizing your mouse, or you can click and drag a point to get to the place that you're seeking to go. But clicking and dragging is not going to get you to zoom in. It's just going to get you to move the map around. Here you have a dialog box on the left corner. This dialog box gives you hyperlinks to the definitions of overburdened and underserved areas, as well as it gives you how we calculate the EJ score. So if you wanted to get down to the nooks and crannies of how we calculate that, you can click these hyperlinks and they will take you to the examples of how it's done. Also here, you can find the methodology, which gives you all the information that you need to know about the tool. Now you see here icons that are listed. These icons here in the legend do not activate out of the legend. They activate underneath the search bar. Beneath that, you will find instructions that will help you navigate the tool. Now we go to the center of the map, and you'll see that there's a box with a slider toggle feature. This slider feature allows you to only see either the EJ map and or the overburdened and underserved map. And during the live demonstration, Noble will show you how you can utilize this slider feature. We go to the top, you'll see the search bar, which allows you to put in an address, a census tract number, or latitude and longitude. Now, if you are entering latitude and longitude, you will have to invert that and enter longitude, then latitude. It's just a quirk of the system. And down here is where these icons are activated. During the live demonstration, Noble will show you what they do briefly as they give you information when you hover above them. Lastly, this legend on the bottom right gives you the color coding for the maps. So for the EJ map, you have the colors of light brown, kind of a goldish mustard color, a light green, and a green. For the overburdened underserved map, you have the blue, the green, the pink, and kind of a light yellow. And so these are the colors that help show where the percentiles are on the map. Once you click on a particular map, particular track, and or you enter an address, you're going to get a detailed pop-up. This pop-up is going to give you some pretty basic information, such as what's the EJ score, is it overburdened, and is it underserved? Now, you can expand this particular report by pressing on the dock feature, which is highlighted here. What that will do is will then give you a larger form of the information that will look pretty much like this. And so you'll get all of this information docked to the right nicely on the screen. Again, the summary reads, what's the final EJ score? What is the status of the community? Is it overburdened? Is it underserved? There is a download the report feature, which I'll come back to shortly. Here you have the indicators that are shown in the buckets that Noble presented to you earlier: pollution, burden, exposure, pollution, environmental effects, and sensitive populations, and populations lacking access. It's kind of a 3+1. We added the 1 in to this particular field. I did mention earlier that you have all these indicators. Now, indicators that are above the 75th percentile are going to be illuminated in a bold brown or rust orange, depending on what your screen's resolution is. So here you have ozone, air tox screen, TRI facility proximity, hazardous waste landfill. All of these are above the 75th percentile, so they're illuminated. Again, you can download this report by clicking the download report function, and then that will give you this. You can save this to PDF, you can share it, you can print it, and again, it will give you all of that same information that was shown on the screen on this very nice and tidy report. Now, other indicators that are indices that are available in the report, and remember that Noble stated that we do not use English language proficiency, we do not use race. They're simply there to give you contextual information. They're not used for the EJ score, but you do get age profiles, you get child poverty, you get race and ethnicity, and you get limited English proficiency, again, to paint a clearer picture. So this is all included in the summary when you dock it. This information does not appear in the report when you print it, because the report is actual numbers that roll up into the EJ score. And for that, I'll hand it over to Marie.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marie Pandai. I am a data analyst within our climate change program's technical division, and I will be talking about a new data product hosted on EnviroScreen called the Climate Vulnerability Score, otherwise known as CVS. So as Noble mentioned early on in the presentation, the CVS came out of legislation, specifically the Climate Solutions Now Act, and it charges MDE with developing a methodology for identifying communities disproportionately affected by climate impacts. Now, we define disproportionately affected community as a function of two sub-indices, which I'll go into the next slide. But first and foremost, the legislation requires us to include a couple of things in the calculation. First, being underserved and overburdened communities. And this is where the EJ score comes into play, in that the CVS itself does not use overburdened or underserved communities in its calculations. Instead, we are using the EJ score as a supplement for both. The third thing that the legislation requires us to do is to identify areas that are vulnerable to specific climate impacts, and it names a couple. And then finally, requires us to put equity and geographical impact centered into how we are calculating the score. And we do this using a geospatial analysis approach. So in order to create the climate vulnerability score, we calculated a composite index in that we define disproportionate impact as a function of community impact and climate exposure. On the left-hand side describes the first sub-indice. So again, we're using the EJ score as a supplement for overburdened and underserved. And then we also added tree canopy coverage as one indicator into evaluating the degree at which an affected community could mitigate the potential for harm. We included tree canopy coverage after consultation with our EJ Commission and our EJ Secretary, as that is a really key indicator into how communities are able to adapt to climate impacts. On the right-hand side are our climate exposure indicators. The legislation itself points to utilizing urban heat islands, storm surge, and flooding in order to evaluate the degree of exposure to a community. In terms of the climate exposure sub-indice itself, we also added the addition of drought. Similar to tree canopy coverage, we decided to include drought, as that's another really key indicator into evaluating community resilience. And we utilize a suite of different data sources. The first two being US Drought Monitor and the Trust for Public Land. And for our flooding layer specifically, which encapsulates riverine flooding, fluvial flooding, and coastal, we get data from our stormwater, dam safety, and flood management program. The final thing that I want to really make clear is that the climate vulnerability score is not the environmental justice score. There are only two similarities between them both. One of them is both of these map products are hosted on EnviroScreen, and neither are utilizing overburdened and underserved in their calculations. It's just a supplement. The climate vulnerability score, unlike the EJ score, uses climate data. There's no climate data at all within the EJ score. The climate vulnerability score also uses the EJ score as one of the data inputs into calculating the final composite index, whereas the EJ score does not use any climate vulnerability score output at all. Finally, there's two different pieces of legislation that these scores are coming from. The first being, again, the Climate Solutions Now Act for CVS, and then for the EJ score, House Bill 1200. We'll now transition to a live demo of the tool.
All right, folks, I'm going to show you how to launch this tool. If you go to the MDE website, you'll be able to launch the tool. When you launch the tool, you'll be greeted by this splash screen that Alex mentioned before. This splash screen has helpful information about the release of the tool, the purpose, and then a disclaimer about suggested uses. Like Alex mentioned, moving from right to left, left to right across the screen, this indicator will show which map you are looking at. To clarify, this is the EJ score map that we're viewing. This is the third version of the tool, and we also have some helpful links at the top that includes information that you may want to sort of use in the future. You can link to the MDE homepage, and we also have additional maps, including the indicator maps for each of the previously stated indicator, a map that shows child poverty across the state of Maryland, and then you can access your climate vulnerability score here as well. If you want to know more information about the development of the tool or certain necessary features, you can look at the help button there. Now, on the left side, we can sort of see some helpful features and more information. We can get more information about the overburdened and underserved categories by clicking these hyperlinks. And we can also find where the EJ score percentile and climate vulnerability score can be calculated here. You can access the methodology in this section as well. It'll give you a full PDF of the work behind the development of this tool. As Alex mentioned, the toggle and buttons and features are sort of mimicked on this side. It gives extra detail as to how to use each of these features. You can switch your base map, you can add new data layers, you can measure distances and share to social media. Also mentioned before was this slider feature. So on the left side of the slider feature, on the base map will show you your overburden and underserved status for communities. On the right side of the toggle feature, where you can slide it, will show the EJ score map. Up here, you can search an address. I'll start out by searching 1800 Washington Boulevard. That is the MDE headquarters in the city of Baltimore. So when you search an address, you'll be greeted, a circle will come up. You can click the circle or the surrounding area, and it'll give you that census tract pop-up that Alex mentioned earlier. From here, you can scroll through and look at sort of each of the indicators that may be highlighted. You can also scroll to the bottom to get the information on age, poverty, racial demographics, as well as English proficiency. As I scroll up, I also just want to mention you can access the download the report button feature here that will give you a PDF. You can also change your base map if you want to hide certain features. That is also available as well. So if you wanted to just see the overburden and underserved, or if you wanted to just see the EJ score, you can change that here. We also have a report by location feature where if you drop a point, it'll give you EJ score for all of the census tract within a 0.5 mile radius. This radius can be changed and edited. You can also draw a line or create your own polygon that is for EJ scores in those census tracts. I also want to highlight this filter function that allows you to, once again, change sort of what you're seeing on the map. You can look at EJ score for communities that are above the 75th percentile. You can change that down to 60 or 50. You can also focus only on certain factors that you want to see above the 75th percentile. And you can also search by county. Lastly, I want to just highlight this add data layer feature. You can search through the ArcGIS database, add a data layer via URL, or upload your own shapefile to the tool. And to add that to the tool, you'll just click this add feature button, and you're able to see other overlapping maps. The Just Communities layer is something that was recently released by DHCD. And if you go back to your map layer, you can modify the transparency if you want to see maps with more clarity. So that is going to wrap up my short demo. We'll go back in the future and present a more in-depth information. but for today, I just wanted to cover some of the main features of the tool. As we wrap up today's webinar, I just want to cover where we're getting our data from. Some of our data is coming from federal sources. We use the US Census Bureau for information related to percent poverty line, percent of the population living below the poverty line, and more demographic information. The US EPA also provides information related to particulate matter, ozone, the air tox screen, and other proximate indicators. On the state side, we get our data from data sets provided by the Department of Environment and the Department of Health. I know folks have some questions coming up, but I just want to cover next steps. We are seeking to find out new environmental justice indicators to sort of highlight on the ground experiences of community members. We understand that their challenges in some communities may not show up on this screening tool, so we're undertaking this effort to include more data and data layers and indicators that may elucidate some of the challenges that communities are facing. We're also going to continue to conduct monthly webinars that are publicly available. And lastly, we're constantly going to be responding to user feedback on the tool. This tool is not a stagnant feature. It'll be constantly updated with either more and clearer data sets and more information. So if you are seeing something that doesn't match your experience, please feel free to reach out to us at at ej.md@maryland.gov for more information. And this is also an email that you can use to follow up if you have questions about materials or feedback or anything that we can't cover today. I'm going to pause here and open it up for the Q&A.